How about now? Hello, hello.
Here.
That's weird. I can hear you and they can hear both of us, it looks like.
I got you now.
You got me?
I got you now.
Ah, there we go.
I can hear you. Again, seeing you is a little laggy, but as long as I can hear you,
That's
that
all right.
is what is most important.
Nobody needs to see me anyway.
Stop. Well, they can see you, so we might as well go ahead and introduce ourselves. Um, For those of you that don't know me, my name is Jessie Punch. I'm a content creator, a journalist, podcaster here in the NASCAR world. I am so thrilled to be here today because I am dipping my toes more and more into the NASCAR gaming world and knowing that we have NASCAR 25 here rolling out towards the end of the year. I'm excited to introduce you guys to Matt Lewis, who is one of the minds behind the game. He's a producer. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his involvement in creating the game. But Matt, thank you for being here today. I'm really, really excited to pick your brain.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you jumping into the gaming space. It's gonna be a good time today, and hopefully this is not the last time we do this. I think we're gonna set up a couple more of these, so it's exciting. Yeah, I'm one of the producers on NASCAR 25. I'm sort of the walking proof that when a gamer's mom tells them you can't make money playing video games, you absolutely can. So
Say
um,
bet.
I
Hold my beer,
can't.
mom. Mhm.
I think I counted before this. I'm on my 12th NASCAR console game now. So spent about 15, 16 years at EA doing NASCAR, worked on Madden, worked on college football, a little bit of everything. Then went to 704 games for a while, did NASCAR Heat 1 through 4, and then spent a couple years with Monster Games doing some dirt racing stuff. And then that led to the acquisition with iRacing. So here we are, a bit of a full circle. I used to do this 20 something years ago and back to the NASCAR space.
I think that you have seen it all. Every evolution of NASCAR video game for that long is really amazing, and it really
Yeah.
just proves that we're in such great hands, and I think you even saying EA probably perked a lot of ears because, those are games that, so much nostalgia comes into that, so, how do you, kinda lean on the experience that you've had there, and what can you tell us about, what we're gonna see here with this rollout?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to get in and start kind of sharing some details. I know we've been a little light on details, and there's some intention behind that. But I think the coolest part about this for me is the sort of amalgamation of all this talent that we've brought together. And we've got people from the EA days, we've got people from Dirt to Daytona, we've got people from Papyrus, and obviously Papyrus morphing into iRacing. You combine that with the iRacing physics, the laser scanned tracks, the laser scanned car models. Like it's funny, but like 20 something years ago, we used to dream about this day where it's like, what if we could all get together and take kind of the best of everything and really build this game? So that's what we're trying to do, and that's what we're gonna do. It's gonna be super exciting.
So, as far as the developers of the game, give us the background there as to whose hands this is in and what we can expect and what to trust from them.
Yeah, so this is 100% iRacing. I mean, as I said, we've all come from different angles, but the sort of authenticity and the realism and all those foundational blocks that iRacing was built on, that's where we're going with this game. Now, you know, that doesn't mean we want this to be iRacing on a console, right? That's not what we're trying to do, and that's not, I don't think, what fans should want us to do. But it's more, like I said, taking the power of iRacing and the accuracy of the data, the accuracy of the physics, the accuracy of the models, and all those things, and applying it to console in the right way with the right style of gameplay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but everything that I've understood about the game is, to your point, it's kind of iRacing, but you're bringing the fun back into it. You're taking
Yeah.
away some of the pressure that comes with racing on the iRacing platform. So for somebody like me, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not very skilled behind the wheel, and I don't have a sim rig, and I don't have all of this set up. So the idea of getting into iRacing is a bit intimidating, and none of my buddies want to let me hop on their sim and mess with their scores and wreck race cars under their name. So Is this something, again, for somebody like me that I could have a little more fun with it, with a little less pressure? That's my understanding. Was that the
Yeah.
goal here?
Yeah, and I mean, in a perfect world, you do both, right? You have this super wide amount of settings and assists that you can turn on and off, and whether you want to play with the controller or play with the wheel and pedals, and you really sort of give this wide berth of both extremes, right? Now, again, I don't think we're ever going to get to the level of being the true sim on the console, but the idea is people want to win. They want to go out, they want to have fun, they want to win races, they want to run short races. You know, most of our data shows that 10-ish lap races, things like that. That's sort of the average in career mode and how long people are spending in races. But it's really that, as you said, pick up the controller, quick hitting. Let me hop in here, beat my friends, have a good time, and you know, spend 20 minutes or so playing the game.
Well, on that note then, I know one question I've seen is, is it going to be wheel and pedal compatible, or is this solely, looking at controller play?
Yeah, definitely going to do all of the above. Both on console and on PC will have wheel support.
That's great news. And along the same lines there too, something you mentioned, kind of how in depth fans like to get with their racing. What can we expect out of that's a loaded question there, but as far as things like the damage to the race car, how similar would that be to iRacing as far as the depth of some of those features?
Um, Very similar. I mean, obviously, a lot of the visual damage and a lot of those things have been taken from the sim, and we'll get into the some of those questions a little later on tactically how we did it. But um, yeah, I mean, in console again, it's a little bit different, right? So you have levels of damage. You have sort of this notion of visual only where it doesn't really hurt you. Like it's not going to have a physical effect on your car. And then you've got light damage, which sort of takes some percentage of the damage away, but not as much as full damage. And then you have obviously the full damage, which would be a lot closer to the sim. But for the most part, probably 90% of the console players, they play either on that visual only or the light damage.
Okay, because I know that was one of the questions that had come in preemptively was, when we
Yeah.
see damage on a car, will that affect the handling of the car, the speed of the car? So, to your point, yes, it will be very similar to iRacing in that regard.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So then more on a general scale, you've laid it out a little bit, but how similar is it truly to iRacing? What are some of the similarities that we can expect to see? And quite honestly, what are some of the differences that we can look forward to?
Yeah. So, I mean, all the tracks, all the car models, all of the assets that we're using are literally coming from the sim. So if you're on the sim and you're a fan of what iRacing's doing, you've noticed that, for example, they've done this huge update with the tracks, right? All of the NASCAR track, 30 something tracks, they've been in the process of updating, and the bulk of the reason for doing that was to to use them in the NASCAR 25 console game as well. And so um, there's a much cooler, longer story about sort of the history with Rich Garcia, who ran MGI, and Dave Kemmer, who runs iRacing, and how those guys used to work together and all that. But it's really been this sort of full circle partnership where they kind of said, "Hey, we're all generally doing the same stuff here. Like, let's get smart about this and let's really repurpose everything and start to get smart and build a better product, right? Because if you start with the more accurate data to begin with, of course, the end result is going to be much better as well. So anything asset wise is truly coming directly from the sim. And then on the physics side, it's sort of an amalgamation, right? Like I said, you don't want exactly the sim physics running on console, but the physics that we do have are tuned by the same guys that tune the physics on the iRacing sim side. So from a feel perspective, it's honestly literally the best driving game I've played. And as I said earlier, I've worked on 12 of them. Now I know for the guys in the chat that's going to sound like me being a salesman or whatever, but like that's the truth. I find myself just running laps endlessly, even when I'm just messing around and trying to do some data tuning and things like that. Like it's super fun to just turn laps in this game. It's really cool.
You mentioning some of the background and some of the names and the relationships of the people that have worked together and put so much effort into developing this game. Can you speak a little more to some of the minds that are working? I know we've seen even some faces in the NASCAR world, like Dale Earnhardt Jr., really putting some effort into getting this game to be what he hopes it can be as far as NASCAR gaming goes. And we know what he did, for the iRacing platform. How involved has he been, and who are some other people who have been kind of helping spearhead that?
Yeah, so having Junior involved has been amazing for me, and a lot of times, you partner with a driver and you get them to do some stuff for you, and it's kind of like they show up and they're like, "Hey, what do you want? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do?" But with Junior, like he's really engaged. We had some meetings early on where we were just talking through career mode and some of the things we were going to ask him for in terms of content for the game, and it was supposed to be like a 30-minute meeting, right? And we get to talking and he wants to know more and he's digging in, and all of a sudden it's like 45 minutes have passed. You can see his business manager, like he's a super busy guy, right? You see his business manager popping her head in. She's just like, we got to go. We got to go. He's like, I know, 10 more minutes. I got to figure this out. And we've had several meetings like that where he's just, I think it's, I think it's both. I think it's he feels the same pressure that we do. Like we know the last couple of years have not been great for NASCAR fans, and we know the history there, and um, he wants to over deliver, and so do we. And so there is this sort of extra pressure to get this thing right and make it the best game that it's going to be. And um, from him to we've got some real world spotters in Josh Williams and TJ Majors that we're working with. We work with crew chiefs. We've got obviously got a long relationship with William Byron. Um, that story of that everybody's heard a million times of him starting on the sim in iRacing and eventually making his way to the real deal. Ty Majeski. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And what's cool is like everyone is vested in this game being amazing, and all the drivers are being super supportive, answering our questions. All the race teams have been super supportive. It's been really great.
While we're talking more on the backside of the development, for you personally, having the history that you've had in NASCAR gaming, what were some of the things that you really enjoyed about developing this game? I know you mentioned getting to work with some of the same people and kind of bring together an A team of minds. But for you, are there any stories or things that really hit home for you, or particularly fun or interesting when developing this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back just quickly to an earlier story, which is I don't even know, 23, 24 years old probably, working on the early EA games, and you had some severely long hours, and it was tough work and long alpha periods and all that stuff. And we I don't even know if I should say this, but like while the games were finishing at night, you'd have these long periods where like all the code was getting checked in and you'd have to make new builds, and there was a constant bug count up on a screen that you had to knock out a certain amount of bugs before you went home. And um, while those builds were generating at night, the producers and I were on our PCs playing Papyrus NASCAR Racing 2003 season. So um, that's what I say when like we used to say, I wish we could get all these things worked out and we could all sort of build the game that we've always wanted to build here. But I remember those days vividly where we were on there on the multiplayer playing the game constantly until 3 a.m. just waiting for our builds to finish. Oh, did we lose Jesse? uh, all right. Well, I've got a list of questions here. I can cruise down here.
All right, I'm
Well, I'll
back.
start.
Sorry
Oh,
about
hey,
that. I didn't mean to leave you hanging. It said the video stage was full and it just kicked me. So it said
no
that's
worries.
enough of you. So apologies there.
No worries.
And you're right in the middle of a great story too. So I know that they got to hear it, but I had to
They
miss out
did.
on the end there.
All good. Um, So one of the things I wanted to get to kind of right out the gate is, when is the game coming out? Why is there no gameplay trailer? Like, I what 65-70% of the questions were some version of those two things, right? And I've already seen it a million times in the chat. Here's what I would say. So all along, we've told you guys this fall. Um, all of you have assumed, we can read the comments, that it's going to be September or October. That is correct. Like, there is no question it will be late September, early October. We just don't have an exact date yet because it's a myriad of factors. You have to figure out your submission dates with Sony and Microsoft. You've got to figure out your pre-order windows. You got to do all those things. And some of those things aren't 100% in our control. So I'm telling you all live on the stream, it's going to be late September to early October. So we're in the matter of a couple of weeks there. We will have a hard date very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. I would say by, what is today? Or
I
June
think today's the
12th.
11th of June.
Definitely by the
12th?
end of June, we will have a firm date. But there's no panic. There's no alarm bells going off. We're not going to push it to next year. It's totally on track. It has been the same date since we started this process. It's just, like I said, working out the details. And so then the follow-on question to that is, okay, great. Well, when's the gameplay trailer, right? And so the answer there is, in a perfect world, you want your pre-order to go up and your gameplay trailer to come out at the same time, right? If you look at um, college football or Madden or any of the sports titles, that's another sort of industry thing, right? I know the guys really well who worked on the reboot of college football. I used to work at that studio for almost 20 years, and they worked on the reboot for a little over 2 years. And the first gameplay trailer they put out was a month before they shipped the game, right? So all of these things are sort of normal process and due diligence things that we're just working through. And again, I think there's an element of, we want to make sure it's right as well. And so what every game developer in history has learned is there's no benefit to showing a game too early. That much we know. And you know, we just want to make sure that it's to the level that it needs to be, lines up with pre-orders, and we sort of get all of our ducks in a row.
Well, you're right. I mean, if you even just search NASCAR 25, whether it's on Reddit or any article that comes up, that is the number one asked question is release date. And then also, why haven't we seen gameplay? Should we be concerned? So thank you for kind of easing some of those nerves and telling us that, everything's right on track. We shouldn't be concerned at all. But even though we can't get a visual, can you give us some insight? I know personally in my research, one of the big questions people have about what to expect would be the career mode. How extensive is the career mode? What are some of the options? Is this driver only? Can we own race cars? Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what we're going to potentially see there?
Sure. So there's going to be, I mean, the general structure is similar to historically sort of what we've done, right? You're going to start your own team, build your own uh, uh, paint schemes, really sort of start in your backyard garage, right? Your first opportunity is going to be in an ARCA car, work your way through trucks to Xfinity, all the way up to Cup. So the general structure and the general goal is going to be similar to what's been in the past. What's different is a lot of the presentation elements, so I'll give you one example. And you know, the point of these things is to not spoil the whole game either. So we're going to kind of do drips and drabs here, but I'll give you one example, which is something that I think is really cool. And I don't remember this ever happening in a console game, but when you get to the point where, let's say you're running a truck and a cup car at the same time, and you go to a track where all the events are at the same track, instead of race weekend sort of just being focused on an individual series and you're kind of bouncing back to the career main menu, everything's going to be in that race weekend. So when you first go in there, you're going to see like, oh, I have cup practice, and then I have truck qualifying, and then I have cup qualifying, and you sort of run those events all in a row, just like they do in the real world. And so that's a pretty big departure from what we've done in the past. Presentation wise, there's a lot more cutscenes. There's a lot more pre-race sort of emotion, and we use these words, immersion and emotion. That's what it's all about, right? We really want to focus on, what does it feel like to be an actual driver at the racetrack on race weekend. What are the emotions you go through as you go through all these stages? So um, tons and tons of presentation differences. And then I think the big one that, again, I just want to tease and not give away too much, but um, there's a notion of turning points in career, and we present those to you through a really unique system featuring Dale Jr. and some of his podcast stuff that he does. But the coolest part is you're only going to get maybe 3 or 4 of those in your entire career, right? But from a replayability perspective, you could then go back and play career and have these sort of big moments happen differently every time you play career, right? And so an example would be um, maybe you've had a string of a couple of bad races, and your PR agent comes on after one of those races and she says, hey, you've got this opportunity to go be in a movie, right? And the movie's going to give you X number of dollars, maybe some reputation points, or maybe something to help you down the road. Or you could go to the shop and you could spend some extra time at the shop this week, and that might build the relationship with your crew guys, and that may make your car a little better for that weekend, or make your pit stops a little faster because there's some camaraderie going on. Like those kind of like A/B decisions that have a risk reward mechanism and have some benefit to you down the road in career. Those are all brand new as well.
It excites me the way that you describe some of the priorities that you guys had in developing this when you talk about really just capturing the energy and the air and ambiance of not only race day and preparing to take on a race, but these career moments. And not to reiterate, or I guess I should reiterate because we may have some more people that have hopped in here, but the drivers that you have leaned on and used as resources to help in developing this game, the William Byrons, the Dale Earnhardt Juniors, it's so impressive and exciting to think that you're really using firsthand experience and they're helping you put us in that driver's seat. And it's really the best opportunity that we'll have to feel what it feels like from an overall just air and ambiance standpoint. It's
Yeah,
exciting.
for sure. It is. It is.
So something that you mentioned though in that description, you mentioned the ARCA series. It does breed the question as to what series we can expect to see on this game. People had asked specifically about ARCA Regional, East and West. What can we expect?
Yep. So we have 4 series: ARCA, Truck Series, Xfinity, and Cup. No divisional stuff yet, but um, I think what I would say there is that's an important sort of year one thing, is to get the plumbing in place to be able to do things like that we want to do in the future, right? So I always equate it to like, if you're going to build a house and you're going to do a big custom house, maybe in your basement you want to plumb for an extra bathroom or something like that. So year one is really about get the foundation correct, make sure that the building blocks are there, but also sort of stub out some things that you could possibly do in the future. And so doing more series, um, we get a lot of questions about, um, harkening back to the old days with modifieds or Cars Tour, like any of that kind of stuff. Um, but the key is building the foundation of career mode to have this notion of multiple series. I think some people hopefully are surprised and excited about the fact that we even got the 4 series into the year one effort. It's a big effort, right? To get to that point where you can just start to enable multiple series and multiple cars and all those things going on at the same time. And so um, that was a huge leap for year one, just to have 4. But then, like I said, the sky's the limit, so to speak, as we continue and see what else we can do down the road in years 2, 3, 4.
The groundwork has been laid, as you can say.
That's
We
it.
can we
Yep.
can only go up from here. So, kind of on a similar note, then, as far as things that are developing now and when we can expect to see them roll out in a gaming world, huge announcement this week with Ram coming back into the Truck Series. Will we expect to see
Yeah.
Ram representation?
Not in year one. From what I understand, that's a year to 2026 thing. So, you know, might we do an update to the game in the next season? Maybe. But predominantly, I would think that would be like a year two thing where we put them in there. But they're on track for 2026, I believe, at Daytona.
Another question that I had, I'm making sure I'm trying to hit everybody's questions here. Um, Multiplayer, what
Yep.
is that gonna look like on this game, and what were some of the priorities there in developing that side of gameplay?
Yep. So, um, full fields. So, field max in every series applies in online. All 4 series will be available. Um, what else did I see asked? AI cars. There were some questions about, can I race with the AI in multiplayer? Yes, you can. Private lobbies. That's another big question I've seen a lot. We'll definitely have private lobbies, and then um, again, there's some plans that we're still working on with maybe some weekly sort of special events and things like that, but more to come on that in the future.
I realize I should have asked this in our ARCA discussion, and I moved on too quickly. We expect to see the faces that we see on Saturdays and Sundays in those
Yeah.
series. Is ARCA gonna be the same way? Are we gonna have ARCA drivers in the game?
Yeah. So, uh, those guys are super excited. And, you can imagine, right? I don't want to generalize, but they're typically younger guys, newer to the series, right? And I think they're a little more, they've played a lot of games, right? And so you go out, you try to get these guys to sign up, and they're like chomping at the bit, like, yes, that they want to get their partners more exposure. They want to like maximize their brand as they're coming up and trying to make a name for themselves. So we actually have, I think, more ARCA guys than we do anything else. It's like 50. Hang on, I have the numbers here somewhere. 56 ARCA guys,
Wow,
43 truck guys, 42 Xfinity guys, and 46 Cup guys. So,
that's very
um,
impressive.
before anybody asks, we'll have rosters and all that stuff coming probably sometime in July, I would imagine, starting to kind of put those out and show you the list, the full list. But yeah, that's licensed real world guys. So what is that? 90, something total licensed drivers.
So this might be then I don't wanna call it a dumb question, but I'll call it more of a general question for those of us like me that are still learning and excited about kind of getting into this gaming space even more so. I don't wanna say getting into because that discredits me. Learning more about the background of it. How do you work with 90 some drivers to ensure that they're represented correctly in this game? Can you tell me a little bit about what that looks like in development? I have to imagine that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So a very large portion of my role, I tell everybody, is just air traffic control, right? Because like you've got 30 something tracks and 190 drivers and 100 and something race teams and NASCAR, and generally everybody works together and rising tide floats all boats, and that's the whole way this sport works, right? But individually, yeah, there's a lot of just tactical bits and pieces and approvals and everything that goes in the game. We put it in there, but then we have to show it back to them and say, is this right? Is this what you sent us? Um, I'll give a little shout out. Her name's Bethany. She's awesome. She handles 98% of all of that stuff for us and deals with race teams and the tracks and all that stuff to get all the approvals and logos and billboards and all that stuff. And she does an amazing job. It's largely a thankless task, and what I say about that stuff in general is when you get one thing wrong, like the gamers will find the one billboard on the one track that's wrong, but they don't say anything about the 9,999 of them that are correct, right? It's like,
Always.
but yeah, that's life, right?
Always. Not to jump around too much, but I'm reading the comments here, and you have mentioned this much earlier in our discussion, but to kind of reiterate for anyone that's hopped in, what consoles can we expect to see this on? And crossplay has been a big buzzword I'm seeing here, so give us some insight there.
Yeah. Yeah. So platforms, Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 and PC. Um, I know there's going to be some PS4 guys that are upset by that, but here's sort of the harsh reality, which is those consoles are 12 years old at this point, and there's some opportunity cost, right? So if we had supported the old consoles, you kind of got to take a group of people, take them off the project, put them solely on the job of making the game compatible with the old consoles. That means down-resing textures. That means doing some graphical things to make it run right on those platforms.
Quite
Um,
frankly, if I'm not mistaken, downgrading the game a bit to have to run it on an older system like that.
yeah, yeah, and that and taking away resources that could be doing something else on the next gen consoles, right? Because at the end of the day, you could split it and have two totally sort of diverging paths, but that's exactly right. It makes it less efficient, it makes it slower, it makes it more difficult to develop in the future because now you've got two code bases that start to diverge. And um, had this been 2 or 3 years ago, we probably would have done the older consoles, but being where we are now and sort of the market is crazy. I mean, the way the market changes, go to a retail store and try to find, a gaming aisle anymore. I mean, it's crazy with the shift and how fast everything is changing in this space. But um, anyway, that's the reason. But focus on the. It's funny you still call them next gen consoles, but they're not even next gen anymore. They're current gen, and there'll be new ones here soon, I would imagine.
And things are only
Oh,
gonna
sorry,
continue to move even quicker.
I just saw in the chat. I didn't answer the cross-platform. No, unfortunately, no cross-platform for year one. Again, that's more a factor of just time and energy and making sure we get stuff right. But yeah, I know there's all the booze, but we'll get to it. It's a priority for us going forward, and we know obviously when you talk about the lobbies and number of players and things like that, it's much better to have that available. So
While on the topic, one question that had been submitted prior to today was, console specifications, what those would need to be in order to play this game.
yeah, so that's really the same. It's the same question. It's PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. I think
So we
is what they
really,
meant by that.
like me, I could have the most basic setup. I could go to the store, buy the
Yep,
console. I don't need a wheel, I don't need a rig, I don't need a pedal, I don't need anything.
correct, correct. It will work with controller, and I think I don't know. We used to keep this data in some of the older games, but it's massive. It's like 70% of people actually play with a controller. The the wheel the wheelbase on consoles is pretty small.
I'd be curious, just reading out of this side corner here. Chat, let us know what you tend to play on. If you play on a controller, if you play more um, on a wheel, what do you? I'd just be curious there. But
There's
all right,
so many, like I can't even keep up. It's going so
it's
fast.
going so fast. And quite frankly, I'm
It's
seeing a lot of controller and wheel back and forth here. So it looks
yeah,
like it's pretty split. But uh, I wanna ask, I'm trying to make sure I'm getting everyone's questions because this really
yeah,
is about answering the questions
sure.
from the, gaming community. Difficulty settings, what can you tell us about what that's gonna look like?
Yeah, so um there's two ways to kind of look at this, right? One is what is our sort of out of the box experience. And so when you first boot the game, you've never played it before. You literally get this choice. I think there's six of them, and those are just a preset list of settings for six different levels of play, right? And I'd say for 80% of people that works great, right? Like you pick one, especially if you played some of our games in the past, you kind of know where to start out at least, and then you can make some minor adjustments from there. But what really sets us apart is the ability to really go in option by option and tune things. So I'll give you another sort of one-off example. There's the ability to not only set the AI on like a percentage overall of how fast they are, but then you can also adjust the pack size, right? So you can adjust the spread of like how fast is the fastest guy versus the slowest guy, and you can compact that to make it more challenging, or you can spread it out if you want to. If you're really working on stuff and you're like, man, they're really kicking my tail, you don't necessarily want to win every race, right? You want to feel like you're progressing from the mid 20s to the teens and up to the top tens and things like that. So you can do that by spreading out the pack size a little bit and making yourself more competitive within that pack, especially in career mode as you're upgrading your car and doing R&D and trying to make your car better as well.
And kinda to that point, I know I asked a moment ago about for those like me who wanna just maybe go to the store or use the console I have, throw in the game, start playing, figure it out from there, but there's a lot of other people that really wanna get so much more out of this immediately. So things like DLC, what can they expect to be able to download to improve the game?
Yep. So, um, primarily, paint schemes. Obviously, the paint scheme sort of economy in NASCAR is crazy. It's not like the old days where they, basically run the same paint schemes, but there's entire races like Darlington that are dedicated to throwbacks or different styles of paint schemes and things like that. So we're going to have a ton of those. I think it was over 400 paint schemes that we expect to have this year by the time we're all said and done. But um, you'll get basically one paint scheme per driver. There'll be a couple extras for like the cover guys and things like that on the initial launch, but all the rest of them will be through either the gold edition or you can buy individual paint packs separately. But those will start to trickle out after launch. We haven't even started on a lot of them yet, but um, definitely a lot of paint schemes. The other thing that's new is um, we haven't done this before, but getting things for career mode that could help you, right? So a golden part that might increase your engine performance, or your golden chassis or golden suspension part, things like that. Um, the notion of some extra cash as like a pre-order incentive with helping you start your career a little faster and helping you get money to start your R&D process on your cars a little faster, things like that.
Going back quickly, you mentioned paint schemes. There were some questions along the same lines of helmets and fire suits and any ability to customize those. Will there be DLC in regards to those?
Yep. So the car creator is what we call that whole system. Um, Again, I think you'll see the foundation is similar to what you've had in the past, but expanded, right? There's things in NASCAR that you don't have in other series that you can palletize and start to change colors on haulers and pit boxes and things like that. And then yes, helmets, the driver suit, all of those things are fully customizable.
I'm seeing some questions over here in the chat, and they go hand in hand with some of the preemptive questions people had as far as the tracks and the series, what you can race where. I saw somebody specifically ask about a list of ARCA tracks, and then someone else said, "Can you race a Cup car at any track?" So, can you kind of lay out the similarities there to what we see maybe and what people are used to with iRacing?
Yeah. So again, we'll have much more detail on this probably in July where we start to release the track lists and things like that. But to be clear, we get all of our tracks directly from the sim. So we're not off creating some other version or fantasy tracks or any of that stuff. It's all stuff that's coming straight from the sim, and we do that for authenticity. We do that for the fact that they're laser scanned and super accurate, and all of those reasons. And so, you know, you could probably figure out what the track list is just if you know the sim and you know what the NASCAR tracks are. But we'll definitely have a more comprehensive list probably in that same July timeframe.
Kind of a rogue question here, but it was submitted. What's the soundtrack look like? I mean, going back to the nostalgia factor of it all,
Yeah,
that is huge. The
yeah,
music, it's gotta be on par because truly that's what's gonna resonate when you hear those sounds when you fire up that game. Can you give
yeah,
us some insight?
yeah. So I don't. Do you watch any of Junior's stuff on his like
Yeah.
his secondary? What is the one with him and Amy? Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. Mhm.
So she's always talking about how he has to be in control of music, right? Like they go on a road trip and it's always his phone, or like there's that app that he like takes over music in the bar all the time. Um,
Touch Tunes, I believe, or something
Touch
there's
Tunes,
something like
Touch
that.
Tunes.
Yeah, yeah.
For any of you out there that live anywhere near Mooresville, don't get in a Touch Tunes war with Dale Jr. You will lose. But anyway, he is very much into music, and so he took that ball and ran with it. It's again came out of one of the meetings where he was asking, "How can I help? What can I do?" Um, and it's awesome. I've never seen such a diverse. There's literally something for everybody. So there's I'm gonna mess up the name. Hanuman kind. There's System of a Down. There's Eddie Rabbit. Like there's literally like you name a genre, it's in there. There's something for everybody, and I think it's gonna knock some people's socks off because they're not going to expect it.
So you're telling me Dale Jr. quite literally said, like, "I'll take the aux on this one." He was like,
Yes,
"I'm just
he
gonna take this. Give me the aux. I'll make the playlist. Don't worry about a
100%.
thing."
Yep,
It
yep,
just plays even more into you guys creating the ambiance of being a driver. I mean, you will fire up this game, and from the way people speak to you, to the music, we are gonna feel like we are Dale Earnhardt Jr. or one of these up and coming ARCA drivers or any of the drivers from those series.
yeah,
Which actually brings me to another question, and you don't have to give us too much detail here, but the chat was asking, legacy drivers. You know, you mentioned 90 something drivers. Are they all active? What's that
yeah.
look like?
So I this has been a question for decades, and as you know, I've worked on a lot of them. The challenge with the legacy stuff is purely just the rights, right? Some of them aren't with us anymore. Some of them drove for companies that don't exist anymore. Um, Race teams that don't exist, numbers that have been reassigned or repurchased by different race. Like I could go on for an hour about all the legalities and reasons why it's difficult, but the bottom line is it's that it's just really really difficult. We would all like one of the things I should have started with is literally every single one of us that works on this game is a fan at the end of the day, right? Like we we know the history of the NASCAR franchise. We know the ups and the downs. We know all the problems it's had. We've known all the successes it's had, and we are fans first. So trust me, if there was an easy way to do it, we would do it in a heartbeat. It's just it's more difficult than it probably seems to sort of a day-to-day fan. But there's been products specifically built around that in the past, years and years ago. So I try to never say no, it's never going to happen. But I do want to be clear that it's one of those things that's super challenging, and it's not an easy hurdle to get over.
Well, and I don't wanna sound like I'm trying to spin zone this because it's really not what I'm trying to do, but your answer to that, to me, it says, "Okay, we knew this was gonna be a really difficult challenge here." And all of that effort and focus went into what we just talked about capturing the energy and ambiance of being a current driver. You know, these are
Yeah,
current racetracks, these are current setups, current cars, current feel, current music. You're focusing then on what it feels like to hop in the race car in 2025.
that's right. Yeah, and that's a great segue because that's exactly what we want this to be, right? And you think of um, NASCAR games of the past, and they did this weird thing where they kind of bounced in and out uh, of TV versus driver versus whatever. Like you'd come in and it'd be this like over the top thing like you would see on Fox or NBC or whatever. And then they did some pre-race stuff, and then you hop in the car, and now it's like the driver view, and it's just kind of disorienting, right? Because it's not
The
from the same
perspective of who
perspective.
you are and where you are, it's hard to
Yeah,
land. I know exactly what you're trying to say.
yeah, and like other sports games don't really do that. Like Madden's more from the perspective of how they're on the field, and I mean, there's commentary and stuff like that, but you get what I'm saying, right? And so our sort of focus for this year was exactly that. So all of these cutscenes that I'm talking about, all the new presentation, all the new sort of cinematic stuff is literally from the driver's perspective. It's not a TV shot. It's not something that you would see on Fox or NBC.
Uh, I'm trying to make sure I don't wanna bounce too all over the place, but I wanna get everyone's questions answered. I mean, you just because you just said it there in commentary on other sports games, will we have a similar in-race sound? What does the audio sound like, and what was the efforts put into that?
Yeah, so for us, it's more like I said, driver perspective, right? So the spotters is really what you're going to hear the most. You'll hear some muddled track announcers and things like that, but that's why you're not going to hear that sort of TV style commentary, is because you're the driver, right? So you're primarily hearing your engine first and foremost, and then those spotters. And man, those guys have been amazing. TJ and Josh, they've been troopers in sort of doing everything that we've wanted them to do. It can get monotonous, having to record that stuff and spend time with us, and we ask them a lot of questions because those guys know everything. Like you want a quick just answer on, hey, how does this rule work, or what happens in this situation in qualifying, or what about this? Like, you ask a spotter, man, and they get right back to you, and they know the deal. So we're super appreciative to those guys for a great partnership.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saying that really even just puts it into perspective how one piece of this game, the spotter that you'll hear in your ear, the relationship that you had to have with people like TJ and to be able to do this, to spend the time, that is so extensive. That have to be the hours that were put in to recording all of this to and that is just one piece of what you'll be hearing and feeling throughout this game. It again, not to sound like I'm trying to spin zone everything, but it goes back to the frequently asked question that I've seen some people bring up here as far as release dates, gameplay. There are so many tactical elements that have gone into this that I'll let you speak to wanting to get them all right and having to get them all in order before we can see that as the consumer.
Yeah. So, um, that's what I was kind of getting to earlier, where it's like it's part traffic directing, it's part um, just dotting I's and crossing T's and doing all of the things, because we we do feel the pressure, right? We know it's been what, 6 years, 7 years since a good NASCAR game was out there, and we feel that pain just the same way that these guys in this chat do, and we want to make sure this is right, and we're working our butts off to get us there. And I also get it, the the constant questions about when are you shipping and where's the gameplay shot. Like, I get that too. You don't want to pre-order a game without seeing the gameplay, and you shouldn't pre-order a game without seeing the gameplay, and you shouldn't just listen to an influencer that somebody paid a lot of money to say something about a game. You should see it for yourself, experience it for yourself, and make the right decision for you. And all I can do is tell you that I've been doing this a long time. It is far and away, like, it's not even close how well this game drives. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. It's literally, like I said, uh the one we've always wanted to get right, and it's already that. I mean, it's so much fun to drive. And then layering on everything else, like I said, with the laser scanned assets, the laser scanned tracks, cars, the differences we've made in career mode, and just the Dale Jr. stuff. I cannot wait for you guys to see the way that we're going to present some of this Dale Jr. stuff in career mode. Um, it really is going to be the best one ever, I think.
And not to continue to rehash things, but to make sure that everybody hears what you're here to tell them, and because you brought it up yourself, what do you have to say to this part of the gaming space that feels hesitant about what the rollout's gonna be, knowing that in the past, like you said, it's been a number of years since we had a very successful NASCAR game, and most recently, there is a lot of excitement and promise and then that doesn't meet the expectations. So, what can you tell the consumers about the efforts and the people that are working on this specific project that you can confidently say you can embrace this with confident open arms that this will be a success?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a totally different strategy in terms of working with influencers, getting the game out there, and the way that we're going to go about it. Um, I
And on the development side, sorry, not to cut you off, I just
Yeah,
wanna make sure I set you up correctly there, but just, y and what I'm getting at really is your background. You mentioned you've been here through every iteration of NASCAR game, through EA games, and you can speak to the ability to pull the best of every piece of successful NASCAR game from the past and bring all of those minds together. For
yeah,
anybody that just didn't hear that earlier, I wanted to make
yeah,
sure that they were able to
yeah,
really
yeah. Let's
understand
focus
that.
on that, because I don't want to talk about too many issues of the past. But
No, no, that's what I mean is that these
yeah,
people, like, how can you explain to them the difference of what this means?
yeah. So that's the thing, right? Is it's not just a marketing bullet or like me trying to be salesy or whatever. Like it's the truth. I mean, there was four guys. I mean, you can see which side are they on? That side. That's all my NASCAR plaques right there. But like the same guys that designed all those EA games are there were four of us. They all work for iRacing. The 20 something people that built Dirt to Daytona, they all work for iRacing. All the Papyrus guys, they turned into iRacing. All the stuff that's been done in iRacing since the Papyrus days is all available to us, right? Like it is literally you cannot put together a better team and a better set of assets and a better group to do this work than what we have. And that's what's exciting for me. It's a giant full 360 experience for me to go through this. Back to my first title was uh, NASCAR Thunder 2002. And so here we are 20 whatever years later, and the dream is here, right? Like we put the right team together. We've got all the assets. We've got the awesome physics from iRacing. Like it's an amazing thing. And again, I realize this is just words and you want to see it and you want to see the gameplay trail. Like that stuff is coming, but all I can tell you is what I know and what I know from doing this for 20 something years. And it's going to be amazing.
To your point, it's that the answer right now is if you trust iRacing, which clearly we all do. I mean, that is the platform. If you trust iRacing, you can trust this game and you can trust what you're going to be able to
And
experience in this game.
I will say one thing just on the historical stuff, which is part of the challenge in the past has been longevity, right? Look at a Madden, look at a FIFA, look at a NBA 2K. Those things are super successful and those things are the behemoths that they are because they've lived in the same building for a long time, right? And that lets you build this gigantic product and do everything that you could possibly like what can you do to Madden to make it more NFL than it already is, right? But that's 30 something years of it being under the same roof, generally with the same people and people who love the game and people who bust their butts to make it the best game. The downside of NASCAR is it started that way and then it got traded off and then there was competition and then there wasn't competition and then it got let go from EA and then it went to some overseas people that didn't really value it and then yada yada yada, right? The rest is the story. But what I hope is that not what I hope, what I know is that iRacing is super well funded. We've been around a long time. We've all been doing this for 20 years too. Like I said, there's this whole cool story about Rich and Kemmer that goes back 25, 30 years at this point too. And so it has a home now, right? It has the right home with the right people and the right technology. And all we're going to do is make this thing better. And we've got a year plan to get us out the door. We've got a 3-year plan of where we want to be in 3 years, and we've got a 10-year plan of what does the Madden level NASCAR game look like, and where do we want to be long term with everything we can possibly do. And it's important to have both the long term plan and the resources and team and assets to actually pull it off, and that's what we have.
This insight has been so valuable. Thank you. I know personally, I'm very excited. And I knew a little bit of this information, obviously, through just getting to know you and through what I've been reading online. But what you've been able to confirm so far and kind of tee up has been very exciting. And again, the two major questions before we really wrap this up, and for anyone that's getting here, release date, gameplay, hit them again just because we all wanna know. We're excited.
Yep. So we'll have before the end of June, we'll have an exact date, but we're definitely in the late September, early October timeframe. Gameplay trailer, you can expect about a month before that. So late August, somewhere in that window. But we're ready. Listen, look, we're not at this point not showing the game because it's not where it needs to be. It's more just getting the assets approved, going through the race teams, going back through the tracks. Like the stuff is there. The stuff is ready. Literally, if I could turn my camera, I'd show you it's right there running on my machine and has been for a long time. And so we're not trying to hide anything. We're not in trouble or anything like that. It's just trying to get through those last couple of steps, and we'll have a release date very soon. Screenshots, I think, probably in the July window. We'll do driver rosters. We'll do final track lists. All of those things in the next month and a half here.
And to kind of leave us with some excitement here, something I want to reiterate that you mentioned earlier is that you guys are a group of video game developers, but you're also a group of NASCAR fans.
Yeah.
And and gamers, and you care about this, and you're consumers, and you know what will excite the NASCAR fan base. So, what can you give us, maybe that you haven't already touched on today, that will impress fans? Is there a feature that you know will really stick with us, or something that you can kind of leave us hanging on just to be really excited to look forward to as a NASCAR fan?
I'm just I'm just really excited about career mode in general. I think there's so many unique sort of twists that we've put on it, and it's really gonna feel, even though, like I said, like it's kind of the same thing you would say about any sports game, right? Like as much as I said about Madden earlier, at the same time, it's still Madden, right? Like you get Madden every year, and it still feels generally the same. And so our career mode is going to function the same way that it has been in the past, but it's all the bells and whistles. And what I used to say, um, even in the monster days, was it just needs the polish, and it just needs the presentation, and it just needs those like extra steps. And that's what we get from Dale Jr.'s involvement and from iRacing and from all of these things, is that plus it up and really sort of drive it home. And I'm really excited for people to see the new career mode this year.
I know I'm gonna let you go on here on time. We're getting close to an hour here now chatting about the game, but I do just want to make sure that everybody feels heard, and I want to make sure that you have felt that you've had the space to give us all of the answers that we might be not even knowing that we have questions about. But I am reading the chat. I mean, you guys have a lot of questions. It's hard to figure out how to field everyone's question because, to be honest, a lot of them are about specifics of competition in the game. Like one question that was asked beforehand was about left side tires. Like, will you have the option to only put on left side tires for certain, longer races for strategy? There was some questions here, more specifically, and now of course you guys have hit me up in the chat, but can you tell us a little bit to answer? It's hard to answer everyone's question about the competition element of it. But even just the tires alone, can you answer that question for us?
Yeah. Yeah, so full pit options, all the rules, the stages and all the sort of NASCAR rules you would expect to be in the game, all the pitting options you would expect. Everything is going to be there for sure.
Okay. And again, just making sure I'm having everybody. We talked a little bit about the series, ARCA, Trucks,
Yep.
Xfinity, and Cup, of course. Uh, Driver transfer, silly season. These are some words I've kind of been seeing come up, and this might be stuff that you can't give us the information on quite yet. But do you have any insight there?
Um, not not sort of in the traditional silly season sense. I mean, like I said, there's some turning points and some things like that that you'll have to make some decisions on. And but again, that's sort of in the building blocks category, right? Is to be able to build a system that in the future would let you do some silly season stuff, but um, not sort of in the traditional sense. No.
Well, I had the list. It's here. I'm reading the chat, y'all. These are the questions that you asked. We asked you to ask them, and I've tried to answer most all of them. So, in addition to some of them here through the chat live today. So, if you didn't get your question answered, maybe try to go back through, have some conversations with people that were here the whole time because we really tried to touch on everything that you guys sent um, our way. We weren't trying to avoid anything. So by all means,
Nope.
continue to throw questions
And we're gonna do
our
this
way.
again. I think as we get, I don't know exactly when, but as we get closer to launch, do this again. Maybe bring on some different people, so it's not just me over and over. But have maybe some more technical people if people are into asking technical questions. But I hope that it translates that we are fans, we are passionate about this stuff. We've been doing the dev diaries. The other thing I would say is there's unintentionally and through no fault of ours, there has been a void in NASCAR gaming, right? And so there's extra pressure, extra challenge on us to fill that void by talking a lot about making the game. And we know that that's a lot of words and a lot of the dev diaries are what they are. I think they're interesting, but we understand that you want to see gameplay and all that stuff too. But the point is, we try to do our best to keep you guys informed, keep you excited, tell you what's going on as best we can, and get you some confidence that we're here and we're doing the right stuff, we're making the right decisions, and that we're going to deliver. And I hope that that's coming across the right way.
I know personally as a consumer, I appreciate the openness, the candidness. I really do feel like you guys are an open book. So, personally, again, as someone who's looking forward to playing the game, I encourage everybody in the chat, anyone who's also in the same place as I am, to continue to stay involved, continue to stay invested with the rollout of everything even before you're able to pre-order, because ask the questions. We want to answer them. We want you to be just as excited and confident in purchasing this as we are and as you are, Matt. So continue to stay involved, ask your questions, comment on anything that you see, and we'll try to do even more of this in the future to keep everybody in the know. Well, Matt,
100%.
thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate, like I said, you jumping in here, and obviously NASCAR's support, Nick Rend and Brianna and Ray and his whole team, and it's really cool to have. I've had a long relationship with Nick and those guys as well, doing this as many years as I have, and it's just cool. Like I said, it's this full circular story that we're excited about. So, and I saw the message in the chat. Whoever said, "Do it for Dale," Matt. Those are all 3 cars right there. I don't know if you can see that. That's all 3 cars. But
You weren't joking
doing
when
it
you
for
said
Dale.
this is
That's
a
what we try to
game
do.
made for fans by fans. There's a lot of
Yep.
love and a lot of nostalgia and passion in that game for sure. Matt, thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. I know the chat appreciates it. I look forward to hearing more from you and from other members of that NASCAR 25 crew as we get closer and closer to the release date. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, chat. See you soon.